They said cursed omegas were born to serve, not survive. Born under a dead moon, branded infertile before they could speak. And when the time came, they were sold like livestock with soft eyes and broken dreams. The crowd cheered for blood and coins. And somewhere behind the chains and the chanting, a girl stood still. Her name was Lyra, and tonight would decide whether she died a curse or became one. The auction square smelled of iron and smoke. Torches burned too brightly, casting the crowd in the colors of flame. Merchants barked prices, the sound of coins clinking like judgment. Omega girls stood in a line, barefoot on the stone platform, their marks visible on their collarbones, silver symbols branding their fates. Lyra was the last in line. Her eyes weren't downcast like the others. They burned, faintly, quietly, like embers refusing to die. She's the infertile one, someone called out. She can't bear litters. Useless for any pack. Laughter rose, crude and sharp. Lyra didn't flinch. She lifted her chin. Her wrist shook from the weight of the chains, but her voice was steady. Better infertile than soulless. The crowd booed. Coins flew, and the auctioneer smiled because defiance sold well. The air shifted before he appeared. Not wind, not sound, just presence. The crowd fell quiet as boots struck the cobblestone with measured weight. A man emerged from the shadows of the western gate. Tall, broad, his coat black as a storm. No emblem, no escort, only the mark on his neck. A silver wolf etched into scar. Alpha Kael, someone whispered. The rogue from the Northern Territory. He did not speak. He simply watched as the auctioneer lifted Lyra's chin with a metal rod and announced, Lot 7. A cursed omega, unbroken and touched unwanted. Kael's jaw tightened. The crowd started bidding, 1 coin, 2, half a laugh. Then his voice cut through it. Low, dangerous, I'll take her. The auctioneer blinked. Why, your grace, surely you mean to inspect. Kael tossed a pouch of gold at his feet. The sound of it was final. She's mine. Lyra stared at him, chest heaving. I don't belong to anyone, she whispered. Kael's eyes met hers. Silver on hazel, storm against sunset. He spoke softly, but the words were a command. You do now. When he took her chains, the crowd cheered. But he did not drag her. He did something no alpha ever did. He broke them, with one pull. The metal snapped and fell to the ground. Silence rippled through the square. She stumbled forward, her wrists raw and bleeding. Why? She demanded. Why buy me if you won't use me? Kael glanced at her hands, then at the burn mark of the curse on her collarbone. Because I don't buy people, he said. I free them. The auctioneer laughed nervously. Freedom is not for omegas. Alpha. Kael turned his gaze on him. Cold, lethal. Then I'll rewrite the law. Rain began to fall as they left the square. Lyra walked behind him in silence, her bare feet splattering through mud. Freedom felt strange, like new skin she didn't yet trust. At the edge of the market, Kael stopped. He removed his cloak and draped it over her shoulders without a word. I don't need your pity, she murmured. He glanced back. Good, because you don't have it. Their eyes met again, and for the first time, she saw something other than coldness there, a shadow of recognition, as if her curse had whispered his name long before she spoke it. When they reached the city gates, a soldier blocked their path. Orders from the council, he snarled. No cursed ones beyond the wall. Kael did not slow. He grabbed the soldier by the throat, lifting him clear off the ground. Then you shouldn't stand between a wolf and his prey, he said quietly. He dropped the man and walked on. The gates opened without another word. Lyra followed, heart pounding, realizing too late that she was leaving everything behind, and that something inside her wanted to. That night, beneath a half-lit moon, Lyra woke from a dream of wolves howling in her veins. The sound wasn't outside, it was inside her, wild and calling and hungry. Kael sat by the fire, his eyes catching the flame like liquid silver. Sleep, he said. You'll need your strength for what? She whispered. He looked up at the moon and answered, low, almost to himself. For what comes when the curse wakes. They called her the cursed one who vanished beneath the moon. The last anyone saw of her. The Alpha was carrying her through the northern gates, cloak soaked with rain, eyes set on the wild lands beyond the law. Some said he killed her, some said he mated her, but the truth slept in the mountains, where even the gods forgot to look. Lyra woke to the sound of crackling fire and the scent of pine. Her wrists were bandaged, her clothes replaced by a rough tunic far too large. The Alpha's cloak lay folded beside her, still damp with last night's storm. For a long moment, she thought she was alone until a low voice spoke behind her. You should eat. Kael stood near the fire, sleeves rolled, hair damp, his expression unreadable. He was cleaning a silver blade with slow precision. Lyra's stomach growled, betraying her defiance. She took the bread he offered but refused his gaze. Where are we? she asked finally. Past the wall, Kael replied. Beyond the king's scent. They can't track you here, she frowned. You mean us? No, he said. You. He turned away. But she saw the faint tremor in his jaw when he said her. To 3:30 uneasy truce they traveled north through the fog-veiled forest, silent except for the crunch of frost underfoot. Lyra counted her steps, memorizing landmarks in case she needed to run. Every few miles, Kael stopped to test the wind, scenting danger she couldn't see. Once, she asked, Why help me? His answer was almost a quiet, because I couldn't watch another one burn. She didn't know what he meant, but his tone made her stop asking. That night, she dreamed of fire omegas screaming as collars glowed red, and an alpha with silver eyes watching from the smoke. The third day, the forest went silent. No birds, no wind, only stillness, thick enough to taste. Kael froze mid-step. Stay behind me. From the shadows, arrows whistled. 3, 4, -1 embedding in the trees around them. Hunters, not human. Kael shifted faster than sight, his eyes flashing silver, his voice dropping to a growl. Run. Lyra obeyed, heart pounding, branches clawing at her skin. Behind her, the sound of metal meeting bone, snarls echoing through the pines. She stumbled into a ravine and fell hard, the world spinning into white dot. When she woke, there was only silence and blood on the snow that wasn't hers. Kael, she called. Only her echo answered. He was gone. Lyra wondered until her voice cracked. The cold seeped through her bones, whispering promises of sleep. But something in her, the curse, the survival that had always defied fate, kept her moving. She found a frozen river and followed it, leaving no scent. Night came fast. The wind howled like wolves, too far to see but too near to ignore. By the second night, she could barely walk. Her fingers were blue, her breath thin clouds. When she finally collapsed beneath an old birch, she whispered his name once before darkness claimed her. Kael. In the dream, she stood in a vast hall of glass and moonlight. Kael knelt before her, his hands covered in blood, eyes glowing with sorrow. I failed you, he said. She reached out, but her hand passed through him like smoke. You didn't fail, she whispered. You saved me. The world shook. Cracks split the moon above them. Then why? His voice thundered. Can I still hear your heart? When Lyra gasped awake, the snow around her was melting, steam rising from her skin. The curse mark on her collarbone pulsed faintly with silver light, matching the rhythm of a heartbeat that wasn't hers. She heard him before she saw him, footsteps slow, deliberate, carrying the scent of iron and storm. Found you, Kael murmured, stepping through the fog. His left arm was bleeding, his shirt torn, but his eyes, those impossible eyes, were alive. Lyra staggered to her feet. You disappeared. I followed the scent of your fear, he said. You're louder than you think. She wanted to hit him, or thank him, or both. Instead, she whispered, you shouldn't have come back. Too late. He reached out, touching her throat gently where the mark glowed. Your curse, he said softly. It's not a curse anymore. What is it then? His answer was barely a breath. A bond. Snow began to fall again, soft and soundless, covering the blood and footprints as if the forest itself wished to hide what had happened. Lyra looked up at him, the question trembling on her lips. What are you? Kael's smile was small, dangerous, almost tender. What you were meant to become. He turned away, cloak snapping in the wind, and she saw the faint shimmer of fur ripple along his skin, silver, luminous. Well, her heart raced. Kael, she whispered. He looked back once, his eyes catching the moonlight like mirrors. When the next full moon rises, he said, you'll understand. The snow swallowed his footprints. The wind carried his scent, and Lyra stood alone under a bleeding sky, clutching her mark that throbbed in time with his heartbeat miles away. They said the northern alpha walked with death beside him, that his touch burned, his blood killed, and his heart, if he still had one, was bound to a curse older than the moon. Lyra should have run, but every time she closed her eyes, she heard his voice in the dark. When the next full moon rises, you'll understand. The mountain swallowed sound. Lyra followed Kael through a narrow path lit only by fireflies and silver snow. At the ridge's edge stood a ruined stone walls half-eaten by moss, smoke curling from a single torch. This is your home? She whispered. Kael's answer was quiet. What's left of it, inside? Shadows clung to everything, broken banners, rusted blades, claw marks gouged deep into stone. It was less a house, more a battlefield. He lit a single lantern. The glow carved his face into sharp lines, haunted, beautiful, dangerous. Lyra noticed his hands trembling slightly as he poured water into a basin. He washed his wounds without flinching. The blood that swirled into the bowl was silver. You're bleeding metal, she said. Kael didn't look up. Not metal, moonfire. It burns, it keeps me alive, he replied, Lyra stepped closer. The air between them seemed to crackle. When you said curse, she murmured, you meant this. Kael finally met her gaze. It means I'm half dead, half wolf, and fully damned. He moved away, muscles tense. Every alpha carries the mark. Mine just woke sooner. The moon chooses its monsters. Lyra touched the faint silver light pulsing on her collarbone. And what does the moon want with me? Kael's jaw tightened. You shouldn't feel it yet. Feel what? The bond. A sudden tremor ran through Lyra's body, heat spreading from the mark across her skin like wildfire. Her breath caught. What's happening? Kael was beside her in an instant, his voice low but urgent. Breathe through it, it hurts. It's not pain, he said. It's recognition. Their eyes locked. The world seemed to narrow to a single heartbeat. Lyra felt something pull inside her chest, a thread winding toward him, wrapping tight. Kael stumbled back, fists clenched. No, the word was raw, breaking. It's too soon. I can't. He turned sharply away, the lantern light catching the sheen of his sweat. Lyra reached for him. Kael, don't, he snapped. You don't know what I am. The silence after his words was deafening. He broke it himself. I was born under the blood moon, he said quietly. My mother called me blessed. The elders called me cursed. He traced a scar across his palm, thin, deliberate. When the moon rose red, my pack turned on itself. I watched them tear each other apart. Lyra's throat tightened. And you survived? No, his voice cracked. I killed them. Everyone. The moon made sure of it. He lifted his gaze to hers. Now it sleeps inside me, waiting for the next blood moon to wake again. Lyra took a trembling breath. And when it does, Kael smiled without warmth. Then you'll see why they call me the cursed alpha. They stood in silence, the fire between them hissing softly. Lyra's heartbeat pounded in her ears, matching the pulse she could feel not in her chest, but in his. I can hear you, she whispered. Kael turned, startled. What? Your heart? He went still, the muscles in his shoulders tightening. It's not supposed to happen, he said. You shouldn't be able to feel it. Lyra stepped closer. Maybe the curse chose us both. His laugh was low, bitter, half a growl. You don't want what I am, Omega, then tell me, she said, voice trembling. What are you? Kael's eyes burned silver. A man who kills what he loves. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then his control shattered. He crossed the space between them and caught her wrist, pulling her closer. You should be afraid of me. I am, she breathed, but not enough to leave. The bond pulsed, once silver light flaring beneath their skin. The sound came first, distant horns echoing through the valley. Kael froze. They found us. Lyra grabbed the cloak, eyes wide. The hunters from before. Worse, Kael said. The king's wolves. He pushed her toward a narrow stair carved into stone. There's a passage behind the hearth. Run until the air smells like rain. What about you? He smiled faintly. Curses make good distractions. Before she could argue, the door splintered. Arrows whistled through the room, embedding in the wall inches from her head. Kael's eyes flashed silver. The growl that escaped him was no longer human. Lyra turned and saw what the curse truly meant. His bones cracked, spine arching, hands twisting into claws. Silver fire bled through his skin as fur rippled across his body. Kael, she screamed, but the alpha was gone. Only the beast remained. He moved like lightning, tearing through the attackers with supernatural grace. Steel met claw, and the air filled with the scent of blood and smoke. Lyra crawled to the passage, heart breaking at the sight. Each kill drove him deeper into the curse, his body shuddering, eyes flickering between man and wolf. When the last hunter fell, he turned toward her. For an instant, she saw him, the man beneath the monster, before his body convulsed again. Run, he snarled. Now I'm not leaving you. You already did. The floor split between them as the roof began to collapse. Lyra screamed his name, but the world drowned her voice in thunder and falling stone. When the dust settled, the ruin was gone. Only the scent of moonfire lingered, faint, wild, and sorrowful. Lyra stumbled through the smoke, calling his name until her throat bled. But the alpha was nowhere to be found. They said the curse had claimed him at last. But Lyra knew better. Some curses don't kill, they wait. They said the cursed alpha died that night, buried beneath the ruins of his own home, swallowed by the moonfire he carried in his veins. But the moon does not bury its children. It remakes them. And when the blood moon rose again, so did he. Lyra clawed her way from the rubble, lungs full of ash. The forest burned behind her. The world she knew was gone. For 3 days she wandered the frozen hills, guided only by the pulse of the mark on her collarbone, the faint rhythm of a heartbeat that refused to die. When she finally reached the northern ridge, she collapsed beside an ancient cairn. There, a woman waited, cloaked in wolf fur, eyes like polished amber. You carry his scent, the woman said. Then he's alive, Lyra whispered. The woman smiled, sad and knowing. He was born of moonfire. He cannot die. but he is no longer what you knew. The stranger led her through a glen where the snow never melted. Carvings lined the stones, wolves, moons, and sigils Lyra had seen only in nightmares. They call this place the Vale of Echoes, the woman said. All alphas come here when the curse consumes them. Lyra touched one of the carvings. What happens to them? They forget their names, the woman said softly. The moon takes what's left and forges something new. Lyra's throat tightened. Then he's lost, not lost, the woman corrected. Changing, and if he finds his way back, the old order will fall. That night, as Lyra slept beside the fire, dreams bled into memory. She saw Kael kneeling in the ruins, silver flames pouring from his hands. A voice neither human nor divine whispered through him. You are not the curse. You are the heir. His body convulsed. The moon split above him like a wound, and from its light, wolves stepped forth, pale, spectral, countless. They bowed to him. Lyra woke gasping, her mark blazing with heat. The woman watched her with quiet awe. You saw him, she murmured. Then the bond still holds. Lyra followed the stranger north for days. Each night the moon grew fuller, redder. Each night the mark burned hotter, as if calling her toward something inevitable. At last they reached the sacred grove, a circle of stones older than the kingdoms of men. Moonlight dripped across the clearing like liquid silver. This is where it began, the woman said. The first alpha rose here, under the first blood moon. And tonight, another will rise again. Lyra's breath caught. You mean Kael? The woman nodded. He carries the lineage of the moon's heir, but an heir must choose, to rule or to destroy. The wind stilled. Every torch in the grove went out at once. Then the moonlight thickened, pouring into the center of the stones like a living thing. A figure emerged, barefoot, shirt torn, eyes burning gold. Kael. Lyra took one step forward and froze. He looked the same, yet not. His hair shimmered with threads of silver. His veins glowed faintly beneath his skin. The moonfire no longer devoured him. It obeyed him. Kael, she whispered. He blinked, disoriented, as if waking from centuries. Lyra. Her name left his mouth like a prayer. The wolves surrounding the grove lowered their heads. Even the stranger bowed. The alpha has returned, she said. The moon's heir lives. Lyra ran to him, but Kael stepped back, pain twisting his face. Don't, he said hoarsely. The curse hasn't left me, it's only wearing my skin. She shook her head. You saved me. You're still you, he smiled, broken. I killed every man who entered that ruin. I felt their fear, their blood, their screams inside me. Tell me, Lyra, what kind of man survives that? She reached for his hand. The kind who comes back. For a long moment, he let her touch him. The bond between them flared, the air humming with shared heartbeat. But beneath it, something darker stirred. A second rhythm, slow and ancient, like the moon itself breathing through his chest. Kael's voice dropped to a whisper. The moon wants me to lead. But to lead, I must let her control everything, including you. Lyra's eyes filled. Then fight her, he cupped her face. What if she is me? A deep howl rolled through the forest, answered by dozens more. Lyra turned. Shadowed figures moved between the trees. The King's Legion, the stranger hissed. They've followed the moonfire here. Kael's expression hardened. Then tonight, the kingdoms will remember who they tried to burn. He raised his hand. Silver light burst from his palm, arcing upward to meet the moon. Wolves stepped out of the shadows, their eyes glowing the same gold as his. Lyra stood at his side. What are you doing? Ending a war that began before either of us were born. He glanced at her, voice slow. When the dawn comes, you'll see what the moon made of me. The first arrows flew, hissing streaks of fire. Kael caught one midair, crushed it in his fist, and the flame died. Stay behind me, he ordered. No, she said, stepping beside him. We finish this together. The grove erupted in chaos, light and shadow, fur and steel, moonfire and blood. Through it all, Lyra and Kael moved as one, their bond guiding every strike, every breath. Above them, the blood moon burned brighter, its light etching a sigil across the sky. Two hearts, one curse, one destiny. And as the dawn began to break, the stranger's voice echoed through the smoke. The moon's heir has returned, but what rises with him will not be mercy. She does not crown them, she breaks them first. And on the night when blood met light, the Alpha and the cursed Omega stood before the goddess herself, their love the final offering. The grove lay in ruin, smoke curled from the scorched earth, wolves limped among the dead. The blood moon had dimmed to a faint ember behind drifting clouds. Lyra knelt beside Kael, her hands slick with silver blood. Stay with me, she whispered. He laughed weakly. You never listen. When the wind shifted, every torch flared back to life at once, a sign. Mevin, the ancient seer, stepped from the shadows, her eyes glowing white. The battle is won, she said. but the war within you is not. Her staff struck the ground. The moon demands balance. Enter the circle, the clearing shimmered. 12 stones rose from the soil, each carved with runes older than speech. Kael limped into the circle. Lyra followed, her heart thundering. Mavin's voice deepened, no longer her own, but the moon speaking through her. 2 souls bound by curse and choice. One must bleed for balance. One must burn for truth. Lyra's breath caught. What does that mean? Kael answered softly. It means one of us doesn't walk out. He reached for his dagger. She caught his wrist. No, he smiled, sad and tired. You already gave me life once. Let me give you peace. Light spilled from the stones, weaving into a column that split the sky. From within it, a figure descended. Not woman, not beast, but both. The moon's avatar. Her voice echoed like bells submerged in water. Kael of the blood moon, Lyra of the broken seal. You carry my mark. You carry my mistake. Lyra stepped forward. If loving him is your mistake, then I share it. The goddess tilted her head. And would you share his fate? I already do. Kael tried to pull her back, but the light pinned them together. Silver veins of energy coiled around their wrists, binding flesh to flame. Then the trial begins, the goddess said. Pain struck first. Kael dropped to one knee as his curse surged for rippling, claws splitting through skin. The moonfire tried to consume him again. Lyra's own mark blazed in response. Silver light poured from her chest, linking to his heart like a thread of molten glass. Mevin shouted from the edge of the circle. You must balance. Give and take blood for light. Lyra pressed her palm to Kael's wound. The light entered him. The curse poured into her. She screamed, but did not pull away. Kael's eyes widened. Stop, you'll die. Then we die together. The goddess's voice rolled like thunder. One heart cannot bear both. Choose. Lyra's voice trembled. Then take mine. Kael caught her face between his hands. You stubborn, impossible creature, he whispered. You think love is sacrifice. It isn't, then what is it? It's staying. He kissed her once. And in that moment, silver flame leapt from her body into his. Her pain became his. Her blood became his shield. The ground cracked beneath them. The runes turned from white to crimson. Kael roared, lifting his face to the heavens. If balance demands blood, then take mine. Moonfire erupted, spiraling upward like a storm. The wolves howled as one. The forest bent under the weight of it. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. No sound, no air, only light. When the brilliance faded, Lyra lay still, her skin cold. Kael cradled her, whispering her name until it broke. The goddess stepped closer, her form softening. You understand now. Balance is not blood. It is mercy. She extended a hand over Lyra's body. Moonlight poured into her chest. Her eyes fluttered open, pale silver, brighter than before. Kael exhaled a ragged laugh. You came back. Lyra smiled faintly. You talk too much. The goddess looked to them both. Your bond remade what I broke. Henceforth you are no longer cursed. You are the bridge between blood and light. The runes dimmed. The circle vanished. And for the first time in centuries, the forest was quiet. When dawn came, the survivors gathered at the grove's edge. Mevin bowed low. The moon's heir has fulfilled the trial. Kael stood, helping Lyra to her feet. Their marks had changed, no longer to halves, but one crescent split by a line of gold. What happens now? Lyra asked. Mevin smiled. Now you rule, not by fear but by light. Kael looked at the rising sun. I've ruled enough. Let her lead. Lyra shook her head. We lead together, he chuckled. Careful, Luna, that sounds like peace. Then let the world learn what that means. They turned toward the horizon where night bled into morning, and the first rays of sunlight kissed the ashes of the old world. The goddess's voice lingered on the wind. The trial is ended, but every heir must face the dawn. Lyra looked up, fingers entwined with Kael's. Do you hear that? She whispered. He smiled. The world's starting over. They said the moon remembers every vow ever broken beneath her light, and when she forgives, she does not erase the scar. She turns it into a mark of devotion. The war had ended. The curse was lifted, but love, like moonlight, always finds a way to return. Morning came quiet over the northern ridge. Mist hung low, wrapping the forest in silver breath. Lyra sat by the riverbank, feet bare in the cold water, watching sunlight spill across ripples that still smelled faintly of ash. Behind her, the pack rebuilt. Wolves carried stone, children chased light between trees that once hid death. Life, fragile and stubborn, had found its rhythm again. Kael approached silently, as he always did. The moonfire that once burned through him now pulsed like calm embers beneath his skin. He stopped a few steps behind her. You haven't slept, he said. Lyra smiled faintly. The moon doesn't sleep. Why should I? He chuckled softly, kneeling beside her. Because even the moon hides during the day. They sat in silence, the sound of the river weaving between them. Kael's left hand bore a faint scar, crescent etched into his palm, glowing faintly when touched by sunlight. Lyra traced it gently. Does it still hurt? Only when I remember, he said. And when you forget, he smiled. Then I think it's beauty. Her eyes flickered to her reflection in the water. The mark on her collarbone, the old curse, had faded into something new. A thin crescent of light crossed by a golden line. Do you ever wonder, she asked softly, if we were meant to find peace, or just delay the next storm? Kael looked at her then, truly looked, as if seeing the girl from the auction square, the fire in her defiance, and the woman beside him now who had tamed gods and grief alike. If storms come, he said, we'll face them together. By midday, the survivors gathered in the grove. Mevin stood at the center, her staff now entwined with living vines. The moon's heir stands unchallenged, she declared. But peace is not silence. It must be built. The wolves bowed their heads. Kael turned to Lyra. You should lead them. Lyra shook her head. No throne, no crown. Just home, Mevin smiled. Then let it be written, from this day forward, the packs will follow not by blood or curse, but by bond. Cheers rose through the trees. For the first time, Kael's people howled not in mourning, but in joy. That night, as the stars bloomed over the valley, Lyra walked alone to the temple ruins. The stones still bore the scent of moonfire and memory. She knelt beside the altar where Kael had once offered his blood. A wind stirred soft, cold, familiar. Then the moon's voice filled the silence. Child of my sorrow, heir of my balance, you have mended what I shattered. But one bond remains undone. Lyra bowed her head. The bond between us. No, the goddess said gently. The bond between his soul and yours. Lyra's eyes widened. But we've already shared the mark. Shared, yes. Sealed, no. A vow once broken must be renewed. Beneath the same moon that first witnessed it, the light faded, leaving only moonbeams across the stone. Lyra whispered, then I'll find him. She found Kael by the river again, sharpening his blade in the silvered dark. Training for a war that's over, she asked. He looked up, smirking. Old habits die harder than curses. She stepped closer. The moon spoke to me, his eyes softened. She tends to do that when I'm not looking. She said the bond isn't complete. Kael's jaw tightened. Then what does she want now? A vow, Lyra whispered. One we both owe her, and each other. He stood slowly, water rippling around his boots. What vow? The one we never finished, she said, voice trembling. The one you broke. Kael's expression fractured, guilt, longing, memory all fighting beneath his skin. He dropped to one knee in the shallow water. The moonlight caught his hair, turning it white at the edges. Then let me finish it. Lyra stepped into the river. Cold water curled around her ankles. The night air hummed. The forest held its breath. Kael took her hand, pressing it over his heart. Under this moon, he said, voice raw, I vow to never again turn from what I fear. She placed her hand over his. And under this same light, she whispered, I vow to never again run from what I love. The river began to glow. Silver threads of light coiled up their arms, winding around their wrists, their throats, their hearts. Kael looked at her, eyes wide. It's happening, Lyra nodded. It's returning, their marks ignited. Not as separate flames, but as one. A perfect crescent of light etched across both their bodies, shimmering with the pulse of shared heartbeat. Mavin's voice echoed faintly through the woods. The mate mark has returned. The wolves howled, a chorus that rolled across valleys. And the moon burned brighter, like a crown placed upon them both. The goddess appeared one final time, her form now soft and human-like, eyes filled with calm. You have learned, my heirs. The curse was never your punishment. It was my reminder that love, when denied, becomes ruin. Lyra bowed. What happens now? Now the balance is yours to keep. You will guard the bond between realms, between what hunts and what hopes. Kael met her gaze. And when we falter, then you will rise again, as you always have. The goddess's light faded, leaving behind warmth instead of fire. The world felt lighter, the air clean. For the first time, Kael felt free of the chains that had carried his family name. They returned to the rebuilt grove as dawn painted the sky. The wolves parted for them, heads bowed low. Lyra looked around, smiling. They're waiting for their Luna, Kael smirked. And their alpha, apparently. She nudged him. Try not to scare them this time. He leaned closer. No promises. They stood before the pack as sunlight spilled through the trees. The mate mark shimmered faintly on their joined hands. Mevin raised her staff. Let the dawn bear witness. The curse is broken. The heirs are united. And the world begins anew. Kael looked at Lyra. Do you believe in forever? She smiled. I believe in again. That night, when the moon rose full once more, two figures stood at the riverbank. One shadow, one light reflected perfectly in the water. Their marks pulsed as one heartbeat. And somewhere far above, the moon whispered, "They were never cursed, only chosen to prove that even light needs darkness to shine."